So you're thinking about getting a puppy. Here we have Doberman puppies. So I've been doing this for many years and I know a lot about different breeds of puppies. We're going to talk about all different types of puppies, but here we have Doberman puppies. So I'm going to talk about all sorts of puppies, but there'll be a section on Doberman puppies as well. So what I'm going to talk to you about is, firstly, how do you choose a breeder and a kennel? And then I'm going to talk to you about how do you choose a puppy from a litter. Here we have 5 puppies, but this litter has 10 puppies. And with all the puppies looking identical, how do you choose the right one from a litter? And then lastly, I'm going to talk to you about the common mistakes to avoid, what you should look out for in the common mistakes to avoid. So firstly, let's talk about the first stage. How do you choose a breeder and a kennel? Well, let's rewind. Before you choose a breeder and a kennel, you should be really sure at what you want. I think it's a lot easier when people come to us having really had a good think and done a lot of research and decided what they want, because it makes it so much easier for us to help you when you come along. So you want to decide on what breed you want first of all. Maybe it's a breed you've had before. Once you've decided on your breed, then research that breed really well. If you haven't had that breed before, do a lot of research so you know the breed really well. And then once you've got all that information, you can make your decision. So use all the information you have to make a decision. Also, not only about the research of the dog, but just to think about your circumstances and if you're going to have any life changes that will impact you. For example, if you're going to be living somewhere else, or if you have a dog that needs a lot of walking and attention now, is that still going to be something you're going to be able to do in, say, 6 months time, or maybe in 2 years time when you have children? Is that something you're going to still be able to commit to? So the reason I'm telling you this is because when you go to breeders, a good breeder will ask questions, because some dogs and some breeds are not for everyone. Like Dobermans are not for everyone. That's a breed that requires a good amount of attention, a lot of training, a lot of structure, and they're not for everyone. So a good breeder is going to ask you questions just to make sure you're ready and prepared, and you know the good, the bad and the ugly. And it's really important you know that, because you don't get any surprises later on. So first, before we even get to the researching, first you need to know exactly what you're looking for, and then when you go to research, it makes your job so much easier. So we've dealt with people at the stage where they're still researching, and at the stage where they've decided on what they want and now they're looking for what they want. And every single time we find that the people who have already decided what they want find the process so much easier, because once you've decided that, then everything else falls in place. You know exactly what you're looking for, and you go looking for that. You know what colour, whether you're looking for male or female, and exactly what you're looking for. So that makes it so much easier. The reason I say that is because different kennels may carry different lines, they may carry different colours, they may carry things that may not be what you're looking for. So for instance, the Dobermans come in different colours. They come in black and tan, and they come in brown and tan, and they come in blue. So there's a few different colours that they come in. Black and brown and tan are the most common. So many breeders have that, but not all breeders do. We carry the black and tan line, and we have some brown and tan, but majority of what we have is black and tan. You do see also other colours that are not officially recognised as the breed, but we tend to stick to breed standard, Kennel Club registered puppies. So looking at how to find a kennel, first of all, once you know what you want, you need to find a kennel that supplies that. With Dobermans, you have 2 types of Dobermans. You have European Dobermans, and then you have the American Dobermans that are much smaller. We, for example, carry the European Dobermans. So if you were looking for an American style Doberman, you'd want to make sure that the kennel you were looking for has that. You want to look at reviews. If they've had a reputable kennel, they should have lots of good reviews from previous people who've worked with them for puppies. So check Google reviews. Sometimes they have things that they can send you. A lot of good breeders will stay in contact with the families, so the families send them updates and so on. So they'll have information they'll be able to give you in regards to previous litters. So when you're choosing a kennel, you want to make sure that it fits your goals, and once you've done all your research and decided what you want, then that makes the process so much easier. You're quite laser focused on what you want, and we found that unless somebody's already come to the decision, they know exactly what they want, they find the process a lot more difficult because they're still researching. So at that stage, it would be too early to start looking at puppies, and because puppies go very quickly. So you might see a puppy today and then make a decision in 2 weeks' time. At that point, it may be gone. So it's really important just to be most economical with your time. Instead of looking at a puppy now and then making a decision a month later, it's better to look at that puppy once you've already made a decision, so that if something you want, you can go ahead with it, rather than looking at it and when you come to actually get a puppy, that's gone and you have to start the process all over again. So we find that makes the process so much easier for people. So in terms of kennels, one thing you really want to do is to research the kennel. A good kennel should have information online. If they've got a website, if they've got reviews, see what you can find out about the kennel. And a good breeder should have information about their kennel and lines and past litters that they've had as well. Your breeder should be health testing. A good breeder would be health testing their dogs. You want to make sure that the dogs don't have any congenital diseases that can be passed down through generations. So we test all of our dogs and we health test them, and we only breed them if they're free and clear from congenital diseases. I do get people who come to us who are looking for a dog, and they've had a dog before, not from us, that has gone on to have something that's cost them a lot of money at the vet, sometimes thousands, and then they've decided to only work with breeders that health test their dogs going forward. But it's almost a false economy, because they might have saved a little bit on getting a dog that didn't have that, but it's a false economy because they might have to pay more at the vets. And for Dobermans, they have some common diseases that affect the breed. One of them is DCM, which stands for dilated cardiomyopathy, and this means that their heart grows really enlarged, and unfortunately a lot of Dobermans pass away from that, and they tend to do it fairly young, around the age of 3. So getting a dog that hasn't been health tested for that increases the risk. It's never going to be zero, even if the parents are clear, the grandparents are clear, the great-grandparents are clear. There's always that tiny percent, but your risks are much lower once that dog is coming from health tested, cleared parentage, than if they're not testing at all. Unfortunately, when you see lower prices on dogs, on puppies being sold, sometimes they are cutting corners, and health testing is very expensive, and that they're not doing that at the lower price range. You might be paying a little bit more, but you are you get what you pay for in that sense, and that they're more for a reason. So you will find many stories of people who've gone to let's say quote unquote backyard breeder, and have later come to find that they've inherited some quite unpleasant things in terms of congenital defects. A good breeder like us would say that take your puppy to a vet once you bring it home, and if the vet says it's free and clear of any congenital diseases, great. But if on the occasion they find something, you can bring it back to us for a full refund, no questions asked. That's what a good breeder does. The other thing a good breeder must do is give you a contract. Never hand over money without a contract. We always give contracts. People know exactly what they're paying for, what the agreement is, and everything's in writing, so we never have any quibbles. In our contracts, we put health guarantees. So we're guaranteeing that these puppies are coming from health tested parents. We're also giving you all the information you need to know, everything's stated clearly, what any pricing would be, what any deposits would be, that these puppies are coming with their kennel club certificates, they've been vaccinated, they've been microchipped. So it's great to have all of that in writing, because you're much better having that in writing than if you wouldn't. A very decent breeder would not sell a puppy without a contract. It's recommended practice, and some of them provide more information as well. So you'll have their vaccination cards, and you'll have information about any worming and flea treatments that they've had. So all of our puppies would be wormed and fleed every 2 weeks, so they get it done at 2 weeks old, at 4 weeks old, 6 weeks old, and then 8 weeks old is when most of them go home. So these puppies here are 2.5 weeks old. And now I'm going to talk to you about what you need to look for when you're choosing a puppy from a litter. At 2.5 weeks old, you might choose a puppy at this stage, even though they're quite young. I would get a puppy at this age because if you have a really good litter, really strong litter, they're going to go very quickly. And we've seen families walk in and walk out with 3 puppies, so they can go very quickly, and sometimes people are disappointed when the one they like is gone within a day. So you have to act fast to get a good puppy. So it's fine to look at, you know, reserving one before they're ready to go home. So the legal minimum age that they can go home is 8 weeks old. These puppies at 2.5 weeks old, they're 18 days old, are too young to leave their mother. But at this stage, it would be good to reserve one, so you can choose one from the litter and monitor that puppy as it goes on. Ask for the breeder to send you photos and videos so you can decide if you want to change which puppy you want based on the characteristics. Now, if you're just looking for a puppy, the cutest puppy, then choosing a puppy at this age is great because they've got all of their markings. But in terms of personality, for certain owners, they'll know they want a specific personality. For Dobermans in particular, you have some that are calmer, some that are more high energy, some that would be better as working dogs, some of them that are going to be great to be trained as protection dogs. So you want to look at certain characteristics. These characteristics don't come into play until they're about 6 or 7 weeks old. So at this stage, it would be too soon to tell because their personalities haven't been finalised. They're still in progress. So what a lot of people do is they'll reserve one at this stage, and then they'll either come back or they'll ask for videos when they're a little bit older, so you can see them playing with each other and interacting with each other, maybe seeing how they chase a ball or how they are with like a tug toy, just to see if they've got that real prey drive. And at that stage they'll have their personalities develop, so you can see which ones are more calm, which ones are more dominant. I'd say if you're for working dogs, if you're looking for a dog that you want to go on to, you know, train up to be a protection dog, there are important things you should look for in terms of personality. Yes, you want that prey drive. You also want confident. You need a very confident dog that's going to walk up to you as soon as you walk in the room, not one that's going to be shy and scared of strangers. Dobermans are naturally wary of strangers, but at this puppy stage, they haven't really got as much of that in them, especially for the ones that are going to have that better capability to be trained up to be a protection dog. So some of them will have more of it than others, but with Dobermans, all Dobermans will be naturally protective. So Dobermans are the only breed that will protect their owner without any training. It's a natural instinct, and they were bred for that instinct. So Dobermans are the only breed that will do that. However, some of them would be more effective at being trained up to be professionally trained protective dogs than others. And then if you're looking for that in a litter, you want to come back to that litter at 6 or 7 weeks old. I say come back to that litter because with a good litter, often by the age of 6 or 7 weeks old, there might be one left over, or the litter might have been fully reserved. So when you're selecting a litter, sometimes it can be very difficult, especially take this litter for example. We've got 10 puppies. They're all identical in terms of markings, and there are some slight differences in sizes, but there's no major differences. And at this age, it's too soon to really tell their personality. So it can be quite difficult, but once you know what you're looking, it makes the process a lot easier. Now, moving on to mistakes to avoid, you definitely want to avoid choosing a puppy out of with your heart rather than your head, especially as unfortunately some of the dogs that end up in shelters have been more spur of the moment decisions, or perhaps they haven't thought out all of the potential life changes, or if maybe they have time now to spend 1 or 2 hours a day walking the dog, but will that always be the case? So the worst thing in the world would just be to take such a sweet innocent puppy and then you know, not be able to provide a home for life for it, because unfortunately a lot of, you know, dogs will end up in shelters because their owners haven't been able to provide a life. So definitely think really long and hard about, you know, if you want a puppy, can you provide everything that's needed for it? Not all breeds are for everyone, Dobermans especially. Dobermans need a lot of training, structure. They're great for type A personalities that can keep to routines. Dobermans love routines, and if you have a routine, your life is going to be so much easier. For instance, if you wake up 7 a.m. for a few days, that dog would be able to wake up 7 a.m. without an alarm every single day, because they just thrive on routine. It's built into them. They have an inbuilt alarm clock. So you want to make sure it's health tested. Definitely avoid getting dogs that aren't coming from health tested breeders. Definitely don't avoid making spur of the moment decisions. You definitely don't want to start looking at puppies before you've decided you definitely want one, what you want, because essentially what you're looking to do is look for a puppy to actually that meets your criteria that you want to buy, rather than browsing puppies, because we've never seen somebody who's still researching look at a puppy and it make their decision easier. They're very cute, there's a dopamine hit, but it's not going to be something that is the decider. It's more based on your research and what you can see your future with the dog being. Is it something that you can consistently have for a number of years? I think that if you were looking to make a decision on a spur of the moment, it wouldn't be the right way to go. So if you have done all of your research, you've researched your kennel, chosen your puppy, the time to take your puppy home is at 8 weeks old. We will do some follow-up videos where you can see what these puppies are going to look like as they progress, from 2.5 weeks old up until 8 weeks old, so you can see the process before the puppy comes home to you, and you'll also be able to see what to feed them, make sure you've got all of your supplies prepared for them when you bring them home, because sometimes we see people, they take a puppy home and they realize they've got no food for it or no supplies. So definitely have everything ready for it. One of the things to avoid is if you have other dogs, make sure that you know that they are going to get along with the new dogs, because you know sometimes you do have issues if dogs aren't getting along with each other. Some dogs get along with everyone, which is fine, but you want to consider all the eventualities. So yeah, at this age they're quite young, but by the time they're ready to go home, they would be prepared for you know, a life. Usually puppies get the vaccinations at about 8 weeks old, and then they need a booster shot. So most breeders will provide the first vaccination, and then when you take it home, there'll be a booster shot. It might be in 2 weeks time or in 4 weeks time, depending on when you pick up the puppy. So yeah, I mean, good breeders are also providing health insurance. We provide 5 weeks of health insurance for all of our puppies, so they come with a peace of mind for the first 5 weeks, and then after the 5 weeks you can choose to renew the health insurance or change providers, and it's entirely up to you. So they come with their paperwork. You pick up the paperwork, you get your certificates for the Kennel Club. They're all Kennel Club registered, and they'll all be ready to take home. So we've done everything in terms of insurance, making sure they're ready to go, but then you need to think about you know, what you've got prepared for them when they come into your home. So yeah, there's lots of joy to be had from getting a puppy, but yeah, if you start them on the right structure, then that's the right way to go. Especially with working breeds, they really thrive on structure and consistency. So Dobermans, for example, they need consistent training. So you don't just train them as puppies, you consistently train them. So it's ongoing training. I think that's one of the things that is really important to just to hone in on. But they are great dogs in terms of being both great companions and also, you know, great in terms of performance as well. So yeah, this is what puppies look like at 2.5 weeks old. We thought we'd start this because, you know, we worked with a lot of families who've come and chosen puppies, so we hear a lot of the questions they ask, and we see that people are at different stages and how much more difficult it is for somebody in the early stages of research to get a puppy, because they still have so many questions, and then once they see a puppy they're really feeling as though there's pressure upon themselves to make a decision, but it's way too early. So a lot of people, if they come to us and it's too early, we'd say too early now, definitely on the right tracks, keep researching, and then let us know when you've made a decision, because then we can help you with what you're looking for. So ultimately the decision comes from you, you know, and then we just help you in your decision. So that's what we do as breeders, and I definitely wanted to get some information out there, because there's although we did, you know, give people different resources where they could go to find information, we realised that there are a lot of gaps, and we're aiming to fill the gaps about, you know, getting a puppy and what you'd expect to see when you come to see a puppy. So this is a puppy at the age of 2.5 weeks old, just started to open their eyes, and as you can see they're quite small at this age. They're a little bit wriggly, but they are quite small. This is a Doberman, so they will grow a lot bigger, but by the time you're ready to take them home they would be twice this size. They do grow very quickly, and once you take them home they'll grow even faster. So within a few months they really will grow a lot faster. So this is what you'd expect to see at this age. We will do some follow-up videos with older ages so you can see exactly what you'd expect to see depending on what stage you know, start working with the breeder. But I do recommend this age because you know, if you come at this age you get a good selection of puppies, and especially if you want something particular, perhaps in terms of particular colour or a particular line, the earlier you work with the breeder the better. Really great lines are often reserved by the time that the litter's born, so you know, coming earlier is not going to be a disadvantage in that sense. And what a lot of breeders do is, if you're working with somebody who's wanting to reserve a puppy but really wants to choose a particular personality, they can reserve you a puppy, and then when you decide when they start showing their personality, then you can change which puppy in the litter you want to go for. So there will be some people that will be happy with any puppy because they're just looking for a puppy in this breed. Perhaps they're not looking to do a particular type of training, but for those people who are looking for working dogs, they'd be looking for certain personality characteristics which you wouldn't be able to see at this young age, when, to be honest, if you do see a litter at this age, they're most likely to be sleeping, because they sleep all day and they only wake up to feed, and feeding takes so much energy from them. As soon as they finish feeding, they go right back to sleep again. So at this age, you're most likely to find them sleeping, and yes,